Emotion is a fairly brief and sometimes very powerful experience connected to internal or external stimuli, such as joy or a burst of anger. Mood is similar to emotion, but it lasts much longer and influences one's experiences. For example, depression and cheerfulness. Someone who is in a good mood is likely to experience positive emotions like joy and excitement more than someone who is gloomy in general. Emotions could be thought of as fluctuations in a graph depicting a person's mental state, while mood would be the trend line of the graph. Someone can be depressed and still feel joy for a short period of time, or generally a cheerful person could be temporarily saddened by unpleasant news, for example. Moods can change over time as well, of course, but they just tend to stay much more stable than fleeting emotions. Mood can be influenced and emotions can be regulated to some extent. These are the topics of this video. My name is Jouni Vilkka, and this is my channel, TFF, Teacher from Finland. Don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. It is usually thought that there are a small number of basic emotions such as joy, sorrow, hate, fear, disgust, and surprise. These emotions tend to be expressed in more or less the same facial and bodily expressions in at least nearly all cultures. A study by the Finnish psychologist Lauri Nummenmaa and others showed that there is a fairly universal manner in which people locate the physical sensation of an emotion within their body. The researchers had the test subjects color on a sort of body map the areas where they experience more activation, and in another body map the areas where activation is reduced when experiencing the emotion. It was shown that people tend to associate lots of activation in their hands, head, and upper torso with hate, and reduced activity of the limbs with depression. There is some debate about the existence of basic emotions, but even people who are born blind seem to use the same expressions, which is a strong argument in favor of the existence of basic emotions. Secondary emotions are usually more complex and can be mixtures, including basic emotions. There is more cultural variation among their expressions, and perhaps even in which emotions are recognized and known in a given culture. While basic emotions seem more innate and primitive, secondary emotions may be more learned behavior. Basic or primary emotions are experienced immediately in response to some stimulus, while secondary emotions take a slightly longer time to be experienced. This can be due to their complexity that requires more time to process. For example, you can first get angry as a reaction to how a child behaves, but as you recognize that you are experiencing that basic emotion, you can realize that it is wrong to get angry at kids, and so you feel guilt and shame. Some emotions can also be classified as social because they are connected to other people. You can feel joy, fear, or anger without that emotion having anything to do with others, but embarrassment, shyness, pride, or jealousy don't really make any sense outside of a social context. The way emotions are experienced, expressed, and recognized in oneself and others clearly has a cultural aspect to it. The experience itself and how it is interpreted by the experiencing subject are the mental aspects of the phenomenon. These are culturally modified and partly socially constructed. As you may have already realized, there is also a biological aspect to emotions. Emotions actually seem to begin as biological, physiological reactions to stimuli. Heart rate and blood flow can change, causing blushing or going pale, among other things. The rate of breathing can also change. There might be sweating and even gastrointestinal motility. Shaking or trembling can also accompany an emotion, and not just fear but also anger. Sometimes people mistake another person's anger for fear because they don't understand that what they think is the person trembling in fear is actually muscle spasms caused by adrenaline, and the person may actually be struggling to control themselves and might now easily be pushed to violence. The physiological symptom of emotions are caused by the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, either activating the body to be able to confront demanding situations or to relax it in order to recover. Emotions are very contagious, as you have probably noticed. If you interact with an angry or sad person, you may find yourself experiencing the same emotion. And this is at least partially due to so-called mirror cells or mirror neurons within your brain. They are neurons that in a way mimic behavior observed in others, presumably to enable us to understand what the other is doing or experiencing. In short, empathy. Such physiological functions, as well as certain changes in brain activity, are automatic. Besides them, emotions may also cause us to show or use gestures and facial expressions without us being aware of them. We might be unaware of other changes in our behavior, for example, the way we speak, the volume we use, and so on. We might even be somewhat unaware of the cause of our emotion. We can improve our awareness of all these things by practicing paying attention to such things when under stress or in an emotional state. This is important for emotion regulation. More about that shortly. Emotions, motives, and cognitive processes are all connected to each other inextricably. Even ancient Greek philosophers knew that strong emotions, affects, have a powerful and usually hampering effect on cognitive processes. Attention, observation, awareness, memory, and learning are all influenced by shame or jealousy, making it difficult to process things rationally. Even higher cognitive processes can be affected. Creativity and problem solving can be improved by joy and enthusiasm, or reduced by fear or hatred. The connection works in the other direction as well. Cognitive processes like memory or learning initiate emotions and are used to interpret emotions. This is also connected to motivation because associating positive emotional experiences with behavior or goals motivates and inspires us to seek those things and the related experiences. High motivation again improves attention, ability to observe, remember, learn, think creatively, and solve problems. Failing to achieve a goal causes negative emotions, so the fear of failure functions as a proverbial stick if the expected positive experience associated with success is the carrot. Emotions are also strongly connected to psychological defenses, which I have already discussed in the video about self-regulation. We are usually at least partially aware of the cause of the emotion we are experiencing, as well as of the emotion itself. We can also try to regulate our emotions in various ways and are generally aware of such efforts. The basic features of emotions that we are also aware of, the intensity or strength of the emotion, its valence, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, usually called positive or negative, and its duration. After all, emotions are processes, and like all processes, they also have a beginning and an end, and between these points in time, the duration it lasts. An emotion could simply end, or it could be transformed into another emotion. This end or change could be caused by the situation causing the emotion ending, or the interpretation of the situation changing. The latter clearly is somewhat under one's own control and thus important for emotion regulation. James Gross, among others, has pointed out ways to regulate emotions in the different phases of the emotion process. First of all, one can usually choose which situations to get into or avoid. It is also typically possible to influence the situation one finds oneself in, especially if it was possible to prepare for the situation in advance. I'll give you some examples. You don't have to meet people when they are drunk, for example. Or even if you do, you don't have to be drunk yourself. If you know a person you are about to meet does not like a certain kind of behavior, or they could be triggered by something that you might otherwise normally say or do, you can take these things into consideration. You can even think of things to say well in advance. This way you can influence your interactions with people. This might not seem like emotion regulation, but remember that emotions are contagious. You will be affected by the emotions of other people, but you can also try to steer their emotions to a good direction, so that their emotions will be more likely to influence your emotions in the direction you prefer. During the emotion, once you have realized that you are experiencing an emotion, you can focus or refocus your attention and reassess the situation. You shouldn't just passively allow yourself to simply react. Instead, you can try to regulate your emotions through critical evaluation. An emotional reaction means expressing the emotion and acting on the basis of that emotion. It is not a good idea to simply let your emotions lead to actions, because if your emotions can be manipulated, and they can, then your actions can also be manipulated. Before allowing yourself to react, you can try to interpret the situation in a new way. You should know that your understanding of the situation is always an interpretation, even if it is the same as everyone else's in the situation. The point is that sometimes you may need to remind yourself of how active your mind is in making that interpretation, and that there are probably alternative ways to interpret what people say, how they behave, and so on. When you do express your emotions, you can of course choose how to express them. The options available to you are limited by your experiences and the ways of expressing emotions that you know. Those can be surprisingly limited, but you can learn new ways if you want to. After the situation originally causing the emotion is over, you are still likely to experience emotions related to it, and you may find yourself coming back to that situation. That is not good if all you do is ruminate without any progress, just going through the experience over and over again. But being able to actually think about the process and learn from it would be useful. That requires mental work. You can do it by yourself, or you can have others, such as a friend or a therapist, help you. The point is that You can try to understand the causes of your emotions, what in the experience triggered those emotions, and how you interpreted the situation and what other people were communicating and how you reacted. All this analysis can help you improve your emotion regulation in the future. It can give you new tools to use in your interactions with other people. You can even learn new ways to express your emotions. A wide range of tools enables you to choose the best tool for the job, and similarly, a wide range of emotional expressions increases your ability to communicate. It begins with naming your emotions. There are useful charts of emotions categorized into groups. Merely familiarizing yourself with some of them can clearly increase your ability to recognize and communicate your emotions, or those of others. You can even use a thesaurus or a dictionary to improve your vocabulary, which may help you recognize the nuances between different emotions. Emotions can also be regulated with mental work by solving the problems causing stress and negative emotions, or by making a decision that will allow you to move forward. It can also enable you to work through long emotional processes like grief, which is likely to require mourning. There are professional grief counselors who can help you with such things. Because emotions are connected to mood, it is also possible to influence your mood and through that affect your emotional experiences as well. It is possible to affect your mood negatively, like I have done, by constantly listening to depressing music or by drinking alcohol frequently. I don't recommend such activities. It would be wiser to seek positive influences. Positive social interactions, especially with friends or with pets, are likely to boost your mood and reduce stress. Connecting with nature, taking at least walks in a park, for example, are usually very beneficial as well. Sleep and physical activities are also important. You should work out hard enough to actually get tired at least once in a while. And taking casual strolls is also typically good. It is recommended, even for your physical health, which is of course related to your mood, to walk for at least 6,000 paces every day. Fairly frequently, taking small breaks from any intellectual work you do is also a good idea. An important part of Netiquette, that is guidelines to online behavior, is using emotion regulation when dealing with all the idiots you are bound to come across online. Don't fall for the trolling and other ways they will try to get to you. Remember that you can usually avoid such people, or bots as the case may be. If you think it is worthwhile to address them, you still don't need to allow them to influence your emotions. In fact, don't spend too much time online, or especially on social media, because that will have a negative effect on your mood. But even an email from your boss does not have to affect you on an emotional level. If you find yourself beginning to react emotionally, use the best feature these digital communication methods, as opposed to face-to-face communication, allows. Stop and take a break. Relax, cool down, and take your time responding. If indeed you have to or think it worthwhile to do so. Try to stay calm and use positive emoticons to influence how others react to your message, if possible. Be sure to use polite, appropriate language. Also, remember that others may mistake you for an idiot or a troll as well. This advice is meant to make that less likely. Be especially respectful when providing criticism, which is typically best done in the form of a question instead of a statement. That is, don't just claim matter-of-factly that the other person is wrong, but rather ask if you have understood what is being said correctly, and if it might be the case that something was overlooked or perhaps a mistake was made. By asking, you don't come off as confrontational and are more likely to make other people actually think critically about the things you are pointing out. Love is an emotion that is usually thought to be a powerful connection to another person or people that is based on attraction, affection, and attachment. It can include emotional instability and strong reactions, even to the point of obsession. Romantic love is usually seen as a desirable thing in Western cultures. It is often connected to strange expectations, and it is sometimes used to justify behavior that would otherwise not be tolerated. Even though the emotions involved may be strong, it is still possible to regulate them. One important way to partially regulate the emotions related to love is mental work related to the relationship in question. Every relationship is unique, and there are many different types of relationships. You shouldn't then just assume that you are in a certain kind of relationship. Instead, you need to discuss your relationship with the other person in order to know and actually also to influence or shape that relationship. Together, you can define the relationship, and merely discussing it is likely to deepen it. You don't, after all, typically need to discuss such things with friends, unless there is sex or some other significant factor involved. Most importantly, you need to agree what the relationship is like and where it is going, what you want and expect from it and each other, and where you hope your life will lead. You can of course realize that the things you are looking for are incompatible, and so you have to adjust your relationship to that reality. That could mean ending the relationship, or it could mean changing it into something else, like a beautiful friendship. When you avoid making assumptions about the relationship and actually discuss things together, you also prepare for emotions and regulate emotions in the present and make their regulation in the future easier. You also cannot expect things to stay the same forever. You will have to discuss the same things over again sometime, because people change over time, as do situations, hopes, desires, expectations, and even the way things are conceptualized. I finally talked about love and also gave some advice for relationships. I hope this has been useful to you. If so, let me know in the comments below. If not, keep it to yourself. This is all I wanted to say for now. Bye! If you wish to support my channel, please click thumbs up, subscribe and share my videos. Any comments on the videos would also be welcome.